All right, today we're going to do 9-2 multiplying and factoring. So this is just the beginning of factoring. But on these first few, we're just going to multiply. On these, you're just going to do the distributive property. On number 1, this is 5 times a minus 3. And I really want you to write all these examples down because it'll help you. Okay, so this is just going to become 5a times 5 times negative 3, so minus 15. The distributive property you've done before. You just distribute to everything inside. Okay, now when you multiply, you can multiply everything. Remember, when you add, they have to be like terms. Okay, so here, this negative 2, we multiply to everything. So negative 2 times 2 to get negative 4y plus negative 2 times 7, which is negative 14. Or you could put negative 4y minus 14. Either one doesn't not matter to me. Okay, over here, again, you're going to distribute both things. So 2x times 3x is really 6x squared. Those two x's become x squared, plus 2x times 1 is just 2x. All right? Okay, so over here on number 4, it's the same thing. We're just multiplying by more stuff. Okay, but don't worry. It's the same thing. So negative 4 times the 5 is going to give you negative 20. And then y squared times y to the 4th is y to the 6th. Remember, you add your exponents together. A negative 4 times a negative 3 is a positive 12. And then you'll get y to the 4th because you have 2 y's here and 2 y's here. Okay. And then minus or plus, you can say plus 2 times negative 4, which is negative 8y squared. Okay, so you can make this just minus 8y squared. I don't care which one you do. Okay, so here 2x times x squared is going to give you 2x cubed. And then 2x times the negative 6 is going to give you negative or minus 12x squared because it's x times x. And then 2x times 5 is 10x. And now, since none of these are like terms, you can't add them together. If this was a 10x squared, then you could have combined, but you just stop where you are right there. You're done with those problems. Okay, the next thing is finding the GCF, the greatest common factor. So that means, what can I take out of everything here? So if I look at this, 4x cubed, 12x squared, and negative 8x, it means, what can I divide all of these by? What will go into all of these evenly? Well, the biggest number that will go into all of them. Okay, well, 4 will go into 4, 4 goes into 12, and 4 goes into 8. Okay, so your number, it can't be bigger than 4 because nothing can go into 4. So 4, and then you take the x with the variable with the smallest. If this wasn't an x, then you couldn't put a variable, but you can have an x go into here. You don't do x squared, you just do x. So that's the greatest common factor, which we'll use more here in a little bit. So if I go to this one, always look at your smallest number and see if it goes into the other one. So 2 goes into 4 and 6, so we would use 2, and then it would just be b, because b is the one with the smallest, it's raised to the smallest power. It's just raised to 1. Okay, so over here, 3 doesn't go into 8. Okay, so you can't, and 2 doesn't go into both of those. So the only thing that goes into both of those is 1. Okay, so 1 can be a greatest common factor. All right. Okay, last one, to factor out the monomial. So on here, you're going to find the greatest common factor. So what will come out of all of these? Well, again, look at your smallest number. Will 3 go into all of those? Yes. And also x. Okay, and then you make a parentheses, and then you say, okay, so you're kind of doing the opposite of the distributive property. Okay, so if I divide 3x squared by 3x, I'm left with 3x cubed, I'm left with x squared, okay, or 1x. If I divide 12x squared by 3x, I'm left with 4x, and then 15, I'm left with 5. Okay, so if you were to go back and do the distributive property, it should be the opposite. and you should be able to go back and get what you just got. So 3x times x squared gives me the 3x cubed. 3x times negative 4x gives me the negative 12x. You should be able to work backwards and get, so we're just kind of doing the opposite there. So here, what goes into both of these? Well, 5 is my smallest, and it goes into both, so that's what I'm going to pull out in the front. And then I have d cubed and d, so I use the smallest one. Okay, so what am I left with? Well, if I divide, when I say that, if I divide 5d cubed by 5d, the 5's disappear and I'm left with d squared. Okay, if I divide 10d by 5d, okay, the d's disappear, 5 goes into 10 twice, so I'm left with 2. That's what I mean by divide by. Okay, so then you're done. If you were to work backwards, you should end up with this. Okay, so if I go here, my 6 will go into all of those in my m. Okay, again, if there isn't an m in all three of them, then you would just take the 6 out. Okay, so I have 6m, and I'm left with 1m squared minus 2m minus 6 times 4 is 24. Okay, so again, if I went through and multiplied, I should get what I had up there. All right? And that is it.